I have found, in researching the mind-body problem, that the majority of discussion revolves around the ontological nature of the mind and its features in relation to the matter in the brain. The issue has been talked about by many, but perhaps most famously the issue was discussed by the philosopher Rene Descartes. He broke up the ontology of consciousness into two possibilities, monism and dualism. Descartes put himself into the latter camp. People for hundreds of years have examined and argued for these two ontological positions on consciousness. They have broken up both positions into several different subpositions. I will list only two for each, but there are a multitude more for both. I am only going to give superficial definitions for most of these views, so I encourage you to look up these terms in a philosophical dictionary if you are not familiar and want to learn more about them. A simplistic definition of monism is that it attributes a kind of oneness to the mind and brain. Monism has positions such as property monism and substance monism. Property monism is loosely the idea that all properties are a single type, and so all properties are physical properties or they are all mental properties. Substance monism is the view that only a single type of substance exists, and everything is some form or another of this substance, including the mind and brain. Dualism believes that the mind and brain are distinct and separable. Dualism has positions such as interactionism and epiphenomenalism. Interactionism posits that the mind and body are two separate entities which causally affect one another. Epiphenomenalism posits that mind and body are two separate entities, but the only causal effect is from the body on the mind. The mind does not causally affect the body. In these videos, we are going to be looking at a subposition for dualism, that of interactionism. Even though we are going to be assuming interactionism and drawing implications from it, I believe many of my conclusions will be of importance to anyone interested in the mind-body problem. Again, both dualism and monism have more subpositions than the ones that I listed, but the ones I listed are some of the more prominent. And it should be noted that there are schools of thought which offer other positions, such as trialism, which adds a third substance to the dualist position, which they call sensation. For now, I am only going to touch on monism and dualism. What I'm interested in for the purposes of these videos is which of these positions regard consciousness as being causally relevant to matter in the brain. Of this subset of positions, I will make the case that information gained about consciousness using one of these positions as a model can be useful even if some other of these subsets is closer to the actual ontological nature of consciousness in relation to brain matter. Models are used in science constantly. Most models are mathematical, but they can also be conceptual. Many times the absolute nature of some aspect of reality of the universe cannot be understood by the human mind completely, but we can describe it with models to make predictions about it and bring it into the realm of scientific experimentation. Even if the model is not ontologically completely correct, it can still be beneficial to humans in terms of understanding that aspect of the universe. Models can actually be conceptually wrong and still be useful for prediction. Though it is true that sometimes models may steer you in the wrong way, the overwhelming result of using models has been beneficial to human understanding of the universe. I believe that when it comes to understanding how consciousness and its attributes causally affect the matter in the brain, it is at this time useful for us to create a conceptual model of the ontological nature of consciousness in relation to brain matter, because this allows us to move past the conceptual side of things and begin bringing the mind-body problem into the realm of experimentation. For the purposes of these videos, I am going to be using the position known as property dualist interactionism as an assumed model. In another section of these videos, I explain why I am partial to this position, and I will also explain why I believe people who do not subscribe to property dualist interactionism may still find the bulk of information in these videos useful. For example, from what I have read about the position of trialism, much of this would be applicable to a trialist interactionist. Property dualist interactionism as a model for mind-body interaction. Understanding property dualist interactionism, where the mind and its attributes are non-physical properties of the brain. These properties are causally relevant, meaning that they change the behavior of matter in the brain from what it would have been if governed completely by the conventions established by chemistry and physics. The position of epiphenomenalism, in contrast, believes that the mind is causally irrelevant in regards to brain matter. I like property dualist interactionism, particularly the form where the mind and its attributes are considered non-physical properties of the brain, because I think it's easy for humans to understand. The term non-physical properties separates the mind from the world of shapes ontologically, but it still indicates there is a connection in that the mind is a causal property of things within the material realm. Interactionism seems to be a term that is unique to dualism, though I believe it is actually applicable to other schools of thought such as trialism and even some forms of monism. I believe this because I think interactionism, in its essence, references the causal relevance of the mind in regards to the behavior of matter, and does not need to be dependent on any particular conception of the ontological nature of consciousness in relation to brain matter. It is for this reason why I say that when I am examining the evolution of the mind in the rest of these videos, I will be using a property dualist interactionist position, and I will be referring to consciousness and its attributes, such as qualia, as non-physical properties of the brain. The deductions I will make about the evolution of consciousness and the mind's effect on the physical brain will be mostly applicable to any other conception of the ontological nature of consciousness, so long as it posits the causal relevance of the mind in relation to brain matter.